Emeroy TV or Vision Paradox TV, or you might even be watching this on Des360 on his own YouTube channel. If you guys have watched an old segment that I used to do called Profiles and Drive, you might recognize him. We interviewed you like
2013,
yeah.
2014,
really?
around that time.
Dang, so that was like 4 years ago. Because the last interview I did with him was he was on his grind in the professional route in basketball. What do you call it? If this is your first time watching this, welcome. This is a completely new segment that I have been wanting to do in regards to interviewing people again, except, no studio. My previous episode, we were outside of Starbucks, and if you saw my other episode, we were at a Panda Express. So
we're ready to go now, folks.
So right after this, actually, we're going to be filming some content for an upcoming course that he's going to be releasing. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. Make sure you subscribe to his channel so you can see any of the latest and greatest, and also, get content in regards to basketball and stuff like that. So I can say stuff about it, but I would much rather him. I want to give people a little bit of context about, who you are.
All right, so what's going on, everybody? My name is Desmond Beristain, and let's see. I met Emeroy about 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah, time flies, right? So at the time, I was on this mission to pursue my professional basketball career and dreams overseas. And I met Emeroy in the midst of that, and we hit it off. He was just trying to learn how to play basketball, and we just kind of stayed in touch ever since. And we did this interview about 5 or 6 years ago when I had returned from the Philippines. And after that, I actually was able to continue playing professional basketball in the Philippines and in Mexico. And I returned a few years ago, got into a new business venture, started my own technology company, linked back with Emeroy, and started also translating what I learned while playing professional basketball, the workouts, being able to just train on the go wherever you're at, and have the proper mindset, mentality, work ethic, all that translates, and understanding that it's actually bigger than the sport. So came back to sunny Los Angeles, started training people, and now we're kicking off a couple other ventures, motivational speaking, inspiration, and honestly just sharing positivity well throughout this universe. So it's always good to reconnect and look back at how far we've come, set goals, and then go out there and reach them. So
that's one of the things that I found super interesting. What really surprised me is when you decided to start your own tech company. That's such a like left field, such a huge change. So why that?
So it's really funny, really interesting. So literally, I had devoted 10 years straight to basketball. That's all I cared about. Valentine's Day, I was in the gym. You're talking 6 to 8 hours a day, fully consumed. If I'm not on the court, I'm watching the game. I'm trying to learn because I started playing basketball at age 14. By the age 21, I was professional. So that was life. I had moved into another country, done that, willing to sacrifice everything to attain my goal. Wasn't that glamorous, meaning I sat the bench in college. Best friend was star player. My girlfriend at the time was a star player, and I'm here sitting on the bench. So I've gone through the humble state, pushed through, because always remember what you want is beyond what's happening at this moment.
True.
And anyways, so fully immersed in that. Then one day, Emeroy gets a phone call from me at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. and I'm like, hey, I want to start a tech company. He's like, what? And it really stemmed from I was out here visiting, and my cousin got me to go to a music festival. So we went to this music festival. Amazing experience. I mean, my mind was blown. Never had gone to an event where there's like so many people in one location other than for like basketball. So, but what would happen was someone would always get lost. So we identified this issue that was out there that affects our overall experience, and we were looking for a solution. Nothing was out there. So we just kind of decided, hey, let's create the solution. Let's keep friends together at these music festivals, because music festivals are known to have very little phone service. So we actually got to working on it. We had no idea, called up Emeroy, said, hey, I want to go down this path. I believe that it extends further than just me making a basket and looking at my stats and what am I doing for myself. This is something that could push the whole festival community into a more positive light. And I feel that it's something that we just are drawn to and want to make happen. So that was a few years ago, 2.5 years ago. And yeah, it's a shift. Imagine you have to be pretty committed, or you have to really believe in something to shift.
Yeah. To pull you away from like one passion or something, that one path that you've been dedicating pretty much majority of your life to, then all of a sudden it must have been the impact of and the opportunity must have been huge to cause you to shift like that. I mean, I think what were some of the what were the challenges transition? Did you feel like you have like an identity challenge, like oh, I'm a basketball player, like why am I doing this? Or,
exactly.
like did you go through that? Or
exactly. So the first time we did the interview, I was transitioning. So I had played in the Philippines, and now I was deciding between going back to the Philippines, going to Mexico. What's the next move? Fully immersed and not looking back. No sense of closure. Not ready to move to the next chapter of my life.
Yeah.
Now, I think as we grow as human beings, we start to look at things differently and establish, like, you know what? I hit a level where I was like, you know what? I've been able to travel the world, play basketball, get paid to do something I love in multiple countries. I'm okay, and I'm okay with walking away at this point. I can look myself in the mirror and say, you know what? I did it. As opposed to before even attempting that, I was saying, what if? Now I know. And knowing and having that sense of closure, still having friends that are playing out there and having a great time, and just looking at the different lifestyles, knowing that I can not necessarily keep playing basketball, or what I like to say is I'm still playing basketball. It just looks differently.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, it just looks different.
It kind of is.
And but you do go through that. I mean, it's like I'm used to, like I said, logging in mad hours, long days, long nights, and then just shifting that though. Say I'm doing the same thing, but I'm just going to transition. It's not going to look exactly the same, but I'm going to have to put the same effort into it. I'm going to have to work with the team. I'm going to have to elevate. So you go through that, and really, just like everything else, you make that decision, and firm belief, and commitment, logging in the hours, and gradually, it doesn't happen overnight, then you'll begin to see, wow, now the shift is happening.
Yeah. How did you go from, I think that's like one of the common questions we're probably going to get, like how did you start your company like from zero to actually getting a team, to getting investors, and even trying, even to where you're at right now?
Exactly. So, great question. And I believe that we need to highlight this a lot more, because everyone has an idea, and then you're like, okay, what next?
Yeah.
For us, we're like, okay, I don't have a tech background. My co-founder didn't have a tech background. One of them didn't. How do we do this? So we figured out, okay, well, we need to create a prototype, right? You think, for us, it's a tech business. Okay, how do we do that? I picked up the phone, called one of my friends. When we were 16, he created a top 3 budgeting app for BlackBerry. Jeez. And at the time, like, that's pretty big. Like, this is when BlackBerry, iPhone was barely scratching the surface. So BlackBerry is like, you have one of those. And he created a top 3 budgeting app. Called him up, and I was like, you know what? If this guy likes the idea, maybe it's really worth pursuing. Yeah. And I told him the idea. He's like, I'm in. I was like, wow. Okay, that's one piece. How do we create the hardware, though? Because it's an actual device. He's going to do the coding, the app building. You recruit. So we jumped on website like Upwork, recruiting website, and started interviewing people all over the nation, all over the world, actually. We ended up finding an engineer in Russia, clicked with him. Boom, what's the next step? Emeroy told me, like, do you have a pitch deck? I'm like, no, dude. First off, I played basketball, so I don't know why you're talking about pitching. That's a different sport. And I'm done with that. I'm moving on to business now. So then you like just learn. You become a sponge. How do you start a business? You learn. Brainstorming literally took 6 months. And that's coming up with the idea. How are you going to do it? Learning about it's the whole process. Because when you come up with a business, you're not just making the business to just, oh, I'm making this business, make money, done. great. Money is a byproduct of that. But what you need to do is you're going to be in this field. So you're going to be having interviews in this field. You're going to be answering questions regarding technology. So you got to like immerse yourself in that and be a sponge. So that's what we did. Hurdles, you know, you're going to spend money. Like we spent a lot of money learning. So I call it, we invested money in our rapid growth.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
education.
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, even for Vision Paradox, like, I mean, the way I look at it is you can learn organically. You try to pick up a book, and try to learn on your own, or you can get rapid growth, get a mentor, spend money, go to an. Same thing with our clients in social media for Vision Paradox. Like they want to grow organically, but that's such a long haul. But if you wanna grow faster, you know, influencer marketing, Facebook ads, like those things are the best ways to grow faster and to the right people. So it's like it's the message or the principle. No, one more of the message of like of investing in yourself.
Exactly.
And then that helps the growth faster because you get what you put in.
He just said it. Invest in yourself. Commit to the long run. Those two things. Literally, when we first started this company, we were like, in 4 months, we're going to be in every store. We're going to be this, and we did it. Startup heaven. Startup paradise. And then here we are, nearly 3 years later, and we're still grinding at it. And we totally understand that this is a process. So make sure you commit to the long run, to the long game. Although at the time you might not know what you're getting yourself into, because when you make a decision, that's what happens. When you make a decision, that decision will carry on way further than the dreams you had when you first made that decision.
What do you call it? One of the things that I love that you brought up, especially when you're in that story, was you saying that it took 6 months of brainstorming. So it was like, and I think that's to create some distinction between that. It's not 6 months of dwelling and wondering if it works. It's 6 months of researching to see, of pre-production, of seeing what will work, what are the options. And then I know there's some people who also want to get things done quickly, but one of my favorite sayings is make haste slowly. So you get things done faster if you take the time to do certain things right. So because if you force the issue on certain things, you're going to cut corners. You're going to you might overlook some certain things because you're trying to rush. There's a difference between, you know, rushing and moving quickly. So rushing is just like when you're letting your emotions, you know, we're emotional creatures. So rushing happens when we let our emotions, our anxiety of the result being attached to the result we want, and we want it right now. But what I love about Des' story is like he knows the result he wants. He has the vision of what he wants, but he was well aware that it's not a quick, 1-2 step to get there. It's a marathon.
There you go. It's not a sprint; it's a marathon, and everything, right? You would love the projections to always look like this.
Oh yeah.
But it's more like you're doing you're dancing here,
yeah.
right? You're doing the wave. But yeah, you pretty much said it. You have to make use of the time. So brainstorming for us didn't just mean that. It meant every week we would meet up at the local boba shop for X amount of hours and just like crank out stuff, crank out ideas. What do you think about that? What do you think about this? Chisel in, right? Try to get this strategy down pat. What are we doing? Where are we? What resources do we need? Figuring that out. I even remember, be ready to fork up some money as well. Now, be smart, right? And allocate it properly. Sometimes you're going to have to learn the hard way. But when I first, on that phone call with Emeroy, he's like, are you guys bootstrapping? I'm like, once again, here you go. You're talking about pitch deck. You're talking about bootstraps. I lace my shoes. Like, my shoes are just athletic apparel, bro. But bootstrapping means self-funding your company. And we did that for 2 years. And that means you're not just emotionally invested, you're financially invested, You're spiritually invested. You're doing everything possible. So brainstorm, be active with the brainstorm, still make it productive, have things laid out, because it's not about raising money. It's not about this. You're going to have to do that. But remember, it's about being ready for opportunities. Because the opportunities will come if you want something that bad. You just got to be ready when it comes, and you know exactly what you're going to do, or at least have the confidence to proceed and the belief in yourself to just make it happen.
Yeah, I definitely love that, because you're putting in the work, because I think one of my favorite things is that I think is works, but not in the way people think it should work, is like when they put deadlines on their goals. It's like, oh, in 90 days I'm gonna have X amount of dollars, or have this particular result. And then the thing is, when they hit the 90 days and they don't hit that result, some people automatically quit because they don't have it. But I think it's having that defined goal gives you clarity to create progress, because you don't always the way I believe it, like the universe, God, Buddha, whatever is at your doorstep, is like the universe will reward you what you want in its own time.
Yes.
It's never just because you said I'm gonna get $1 million by the end of the year, it doesn't mean it's gonna happen. I mean, I do like that's where I think the whole secret thing is kind of not working for people, because they think it and they sit on their couch and do nothing. But in reality, if that's what you focus on, your reticular activating system, which is which is something that helps you start noticing things. Like quick examples, like if you buy a car, like for me it was a Toyota. When I first bought that car, I started noticing all the other Toyotas on the road. It's the same thing with you. You start noticing the goal that you want, and think about that every day. Then you're going to start noticing the opportunities to get to that goal. That's why I think having that deadline helps create that mindset and that kind of framework to start looking for those goals to create that result. But just because you don't hit it on the deadline doesn't mean you failed. It means you've made progress and there's feedback. And then based off what he said is, a lot of people want the opportunity to be great, but never put the work into it, because they expect it, like they just want it. They want to celebrate the race without running it. And then when the opportunity comes, they aren't ready for it, and they're scrambling and like chickens with their heads cut off. Like, so I think that's why I like that you guys hustled, even though there was knowing that there was when success was up in the air.
Yeah, thank you.
Because you're pretty much in business with your cousin, right?
Yeah.
So how do you how?
Okay.
Because it's a sensitive topic going into for families going into.
Yeah.
Well.
I'll give a little background too on the story, right?
Yeah.
So, but what you said was totally correct. Be the energy you wish to receive, wield the universe. These are two quotes that I came up with, and it just really has to say, if you're putting out that energy, you're going to receive it.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, the universe is going to work in your favor, and it might not happen at that exact moment that you expect it to happen, but it will still happen. So, okay, Festi. That's our company, right? We decided we want to make the ultimate festival smart band. Track your friends at festivals without phone service. Stay connected. All that good stuff. Now what? Called up my friend from UCI. He was in. He's like, all code. Great. Spoke to my cousin, and that's family. So first thing we said is, hey, do you really, what do you think of this? Great. Should we make it happen? Yes. All right. No matter what happens, we have to always remain family. We kind of said it there. We're like, dude, it's this business. We're going to make it happen. We're going to be, obviously, everyone has their different views on business. But for us, we were like, you know what, man, no matter what happens, win, lose, whatever, we're always family. And we're going to, promise me right now, no matter what, we'll always have each other's back. So we made that pact. And everything's different, but the main thing is establish the parameters early. Early.
That's good. Yeah.
Honestly, people were telling me to have those awkward conversations as much as possible in the beginning, so that everyone kind of understands. So that, because further down the line, you don't want to be in murky water. because things will happen. Hurdles will need to be jumped over. You're going to figure things out. It's going to be even wilder past the brainstorming, like when the thing is actually coming to life, right? So establish that early. Now, for us, we were all three in. We started looking for engineers, outsourcing, found one, found a graphic designer, started working on our pitch deck, getting all that situated, move forward, set milestones, like Emeroy said, attainable milestones. All right, we're going to survey 500 people and ask them if they've, how many times do they get lost at festivals? Does it happen? Boom. Actual data, getting out there, talking to people, making it happen, not just staying in your room and bouncing ideas off the mirror with yourself and being like, yeah, that makes sense. Because when you build a team, you also need that dynamic of sometimes different views, but also working together because there's a certain energy. And I still have that. Like sometimes I will try to come up with a decision, make my mind on something. And it's just like, I don't have that clarity at the moment. But then I'll get with somebody else, a co-founder, that energy starts flowing. And then, boom, we come up with like, oh, like this guy wants to charge us X amount of dollars for this feature. But we've gotten free features. What do we do? But his is in a magazine. How about we just print out all the price that we'll pay to print out all the free articles that we've been featured in, laminate it, is going to be 1/10 of the cost that it's going to cost us to post this in a magazine. So let's just do it that way. Like finding ways around, being ready to put your ego to the side and ultimately do what's best for the long run, establish that culture, all that. So we set milestones. We were establishing this culture. Then it was like all right, we need a prototype. Great. Like, let's make that happen. Boom. We need to test it at this festival. We need to test it here. We need to test it internationally. Boom, boom, boom. Can we file a patent if all this works? Can we recruit people to, certain industrial designers? So it's just milestone after milestone. And then gradually, eventually, all right, we need to raise money, this and that. We need to add experience. So collective things, where we were able to keep doing that, push through, raise some money. And to be honest, we haven't even launched yet. That's how we're looking at this thing, because it's not just about who's the first to launch. It's, would you rather be a rocket or would you rather be a satellite? Now, would you rather be the first rocket? We're up and we're down. Or would you rather be a satellite? Boom, we're up, we're staying up there. It took us a little longer, but we built something that's sustainable and quality is where we want it to be. And we're happy with that. I mean, to be honest, I know I've heard the quote, if you're not completely embarrassed of what you put out, then you've waited too long. I think that is actually a great quote. But I also think there is something to be said about putting something out that you feel really good about too.
Yeah. I think that's an important thing, 'cause, for people to distinguish. It's like, I have conversations with clients about trying to quickly put stuff up on social media, and their concern is always like, oh, I don't want to put up shit content. We're never talking about like shit content. We're talking about good 80 to 90% quality content and letting us produce it fast. So I think that's the thing that people think, that people are overthinking about the shot they're taking instead of actually taking the shot itself.
But you can be strategic about it, right? So everything's valid in terms of, hey, we all know those people or that person that's constantly boom, throwing stuff out there, right? Whether it's the top-notch content, that's for you to decide, but you'll remember that person that's boom, 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 right? Doing that, knocking on the door all the time. You turn on your social media, boom, that person's there again. Okay, then there's something to be said about someone who says, I want that quality, those quality posts, this and that and the third, but that person is going to then have to allocate the time to properly get that situated, right? Schedule. It might be one day where they say, I'm going to come up with these posts, or these are my themes, and I'm going to make sure that it has to pass through, these filters, and then boom, content. So like, find what works for you, and at the same time, put stuff out there, get feedback. Feedback is great.
Yeah, feedback. I think that's the important thing, is like, whether you're someone who like takes your time to put something out there, or someone who's, just machine gunning it. I think the important thing is you pay attention to the feedback you get, because it's what gives direction to the next move. In regards to social media, we always review the data in regards to like what's working, what isn't working, and we combine that with experimental stuff. So that way we're trying something new, and at the same time we're sticking to what works.
Mm-hmm.
So,
to be honest, like when you switch fields, of course, in the back of my mind, like literally, I can go on YouTube and look up some of my friends, and they're stars. Like they're killing it. They're doing great in Mexico, in the Philippines, in Asia. Like, and you're a competitor. By nature, I'm competitive. So I'm like, dude, I could be doing that right now too, right? And when you're dealing with like hardships or certain challenges with their company, you're like, man, I could be just playing ball right now, not worrying about anything. But then I knew that when you make a decision, like I said, you have to really look like what's going to happen is far beyond what you're thinking today, literally. So I knew that, yeah, it'd be great to be balling and doing my thing. But I do know that like in the long run, there's a huge, greater purpose for what I'm doing. And I'm going to take responsibility and make that happen. So, yeah, I would just say starting a business is a challenge, but if you're up for the challenge, then, get started.
Because it's been, like you said, 3 years since you, how do you deal with the pressure? Because I've read some comments that people want it already. And then how do you deal with that kind of like pressure from people? I don't know if you consider it pressure, because it's really just comments, but how do you deal with people wanting it already? And I know you have the urge to want to release it already. Like,
for sure. I mean, like I said, to be like, when we first, remember that we first put out the first Facebook ad ever for Festi, for our product, and it was just testing it out. We literally were like, maybe it'll do, a couple hundred views. I call Emeroy, I'm like, dude, do we get like a virus or something? Because Facebook's saying that there's like over 1 million views, and every minute, like every 5 seconds, someone's signing up from our email list. And I just think it's a virus. Can you do something about this? Now, did I call him like that calm? I'm not sure about that.
It was a different call. He called me literally right when I was about to go on stage. I'm like, I'll do it after I perform.
There you go. He was in the zone. He's like, man. But so we were propelled into the public eye. Literally, like I said, 1.2 million views in 3 days. Shit. So the next question was, every comment is, I want this, tagging person. When is it coming out? When is it before this festival? And ever since that moment, it was just like, okay, what just happened? It's great because now we're like, dude, they want it. Like everyone wants it. But then now you're kind of on the clock and everyone's like, well, is it coming out this year? When is it coming out? You have to deal with that. And like I said, we want to make sure that we put something out that we're really happy with. And what we're doing, like, it's a form of when you're creating something new, you need to do your due diligence. In the manufacturing process, product development process, it takes time. Technology, remember, it's what we are is a full stack. So that's hardware, software, and data.
Shit.
Right? So, and keep in mind, we started this thing just like, hey, want to start a company? All right, let's do it. It wasn't like, hey, we have $1 million. Let's go out there and do exactly what we need to do. That also is what I believe appealed to a lot of our supporters. They're like, we love you guys because it's so raw and authentic. And so like that's something that you really appreciate and you use to fuel you and keep going. So yeah, it takes time, but you do cross that threshold when you're like, it might take another X amount of months.
Yeah.
But once it happens, it's happening and it's going to be big.
So what are you doing aside from like Festi? What are you doing outside of it?
Great question. So, right, you have this company and you're moving forward and you're trying to raise money and you're trying to hit every milestone, this, that, and third. And that requires a lot of your time. But how do you still keep the lights on? How do you still provide insight into the world and positivity into the world? And the mindset as an entrepreneur is you want to keep making, you want to keep creating. You just feel that you have to do this and you want to do this. So aside from Festi, I started personal training. So I started personal training. organically, literally putting up signs, hey, train with the pro athlete, hey, this, started getting a response, training people. That was great. It started to evolve, just like everything. People started to say, hey, I want to focus just on meditation. Some of my clients, hey, can we walk and just talk about life? Can we share ideas? Other clients, hey, I want to be a basketball player and I want to learn. And other client, catering. So I'm like, dude, like this is great. It's extremely gratifying. Doing what you love. I mean, when people call me, they're like, hey, I want to work out. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Hey, I'm always up. I'm always willing to do so. So that's great to find something that you're passionate about and then be able to make money off it as well. It's a plus.
Yeah.
So kicked off Train with Des, trainwithdez.com. Check it out. And that started to transform to this larger platform. I'm really big on self-development, and I listen to, Addicted to Success and other podcasts that are about self-development and becoming your ideal self, working towards that. I wanted to incorporate that in my teachings. So I'm like, you know what? Train with Des is one facet, but what else are we doing? You have management with companies, you have innovation, you have the potential I want to speak in front of the public. So I was like, what if we could start another company that encompasses bits of all that? So that's when we came up with Des 360. Des 360. Because in life, it's not just about, oh, I'm killing it in one angle specifically. Now, there are specialists, and that is great. But even a specialist has to balance out their life. Find a way to how to do it sometime. Even if it's, I specialize in this, but then I go and play an instrument, or I go and spend time with my family, or I go and meditate, this, that, and the third. There's so many angles to success. And so Des 360 is trying to get you to tackle life from these various angles, ultimately for a enlightened self, a better overall mentality, mindset, and overall well-being. So that Des 360 is our inspirational brand, motivational brand, working with my man here at Emeroy to get this thing happening. And I believe that there's enough negativity in the world, and it's time for us to just give out positivity. It's there. Everyone has a gift. There's no difference between one person and the next in terms of we can all contribute, right? So Des 360 is like that wave where we're gathering people, the positive forces, and we're going out there and we're going to make things happen.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I love that you brought up, is because people are so focused on creating success that they forget what makes them happy as well, or fulfills them. So creating success makes you happy. But when it comes to creating success, you have to give so much. You make sacrifices. You sacrifice time with family. You sometimes sacrifice your own health. But people forget the thing that fulfills them. When you do things that fulfill you, it's what, like the word fulfill. It fills your cup. It nourishes the soul. And I think having that balance, because some people are so caught up with creating success and another success that some people get burnt out. And I think defining what success is to you and then defining what fulfills you is a good way to balance things. Because for me, I work a lot and I dance. I had a intense rehearsal yesterday, and I balanced that out by doing something that what makes me happy, which is hanging out with my son, occasionally playing basketball. It's not like my sport, but it's different because it's an opportunity for me to feel like a student, and I'm trying to figure things out. And I feel like when you're doing something like in your career, you're following your passion, you're thinking at a high level all the time. And it's just nice to not have to think like a pro or like an expert. It's just nice to feel like something's new to you and you're experiencing it. I think that's why it's so great for people to travel, because you're not familiar with the place. You're trying to figure everything out. But yeah, I saw you've been traveling a boatload, I think this year.
If you want to grow, travel.
I can say my thoughts on travel. I want to hear what your thoughts. Like, how was that? Because obviously you lived in the Philippines.
Check this out.
Yeah.
Travel, that's part of my life. And why I say that is, I've moved houses 23 times.
Jesus Christ.
I've moved houses 23 times. So basically, I had to condition myself to say, you know what? Physically around me might change, but this house right here, as long as this one's good and taken care of and nourished, this creative sanctuary, everything else is good. Doesn't matter where I am. That's the mentality I had to have when I was in the Philippines. Like, dude, literally phone call, like, you want an opportunity to play basketball? All right, well, Philippines, 2 weeks. I'm like, what? I got to make that decision. Literally, what if I told you right now, Emeroy, you want to dance? All right, well, I got that for you. You got to make the decision right now, and I'll have you in 2 weeks in this country, 8,000 miles away. I don't know. It's a one-way ticket.
One-way ticket?
That's what happened. Shit. It was a one-way ticket, and literally, see, the universe works in such a mysterious way, right? Because you will ask the universe for something, and it will give it to you in return, but it won't package it exactly how you want. It'll package it differently. Mm-hmm. So I literally, I was like, I want to play ball. I want to play overseas. I want to play pro. I want that. And then it came to me and it said, okay, but you're going to have to go live over here in a third world country, do your thing. I mean, total culture shock, total change, lifestyle change. It's a one way, so you don't know when you're coming back. You said you want to play ball, right? You didn't say, I want to play ball for a little bit and then come back. You said you want to play ball. Go play ball. You know? So the one thing for me when I decided to step away is when I had made the firm decision that I had a great time doing this, and now I'm okay with coming back and living here because I said I do not want to live there for the rest of my life. Yeah. You know, but if I said, you know what, I do, then that's what happens. But anyway, bringing it back to the focal point here was the what were we saying? Got off on that tangent. Traveling. Thank you. So you grow rapidly when you're traveling, especially on a one-way ticket. But
shit, I'm thinking about that right now. Like,
dude,
how would I?
Yeah,
like, I got a kid, so I'm like, I can't make that decision. Like, you know, I'm a committed dad, so like the idea of one-way ticket away from my son is like insanity to me.
Just remember, like, even like Kobe, even these people that we look at and say they're extremely successful, they had to sacrifice. Yeah. Like, I have family too, you know, and I missed out on weddings. I missed out on this. I missed out on things that are important to the family. But the one thing I didn't miss out on was being true to my heart and my dream. And I had to do it. I had to. And now I could come back and be more just fruitful. You can see I'm beaming that energy because I'm happy because I was able to go out there and get an opportunity that is seldom to happen. So when you're traveling, two versions. There's that one where you're doing it for work. Yeah. Then there's the leisure travel, right? But leisure travel is great as well. It just gives you perspective. No matter what, you're going to get perspective whenever you travel. You're going to get exposed to new things. You're venturing out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Realistically, what we're saying by traveling really means getting out of your comfort zone. That's how you grow.
Physical way.
You could do that right here. Yeah. We're in front of a camera right now, chatting. Even to get to this comfortable, like, you know, like we had to get out of our comfort zone at one point.
You don't do. I think that's definitely a great way because like there's some people that travel to go find themselves and whatnot. I think that's a great way because sometimes the environment that you're living in is just what's reflecting back or what's happening back. What's happening around you is just shit. I'm a believer of the whole, you know, surround yourself, 5 people to surround yourself with, all that stuff. I think if you just get out of that environment, I think that's just a great place to start.
Can I touch on that really quick? Because that's amazing. Now, what Emeroy was saying basically the quote, you're the average of the 5 people that you, hang out around the most, right? And that is valid. Why is that valid? Because naturally being around someone, certain things are going to rub off on you, right? So you want to create an environment that allows you to flourish, right? You want to be a billionaire, or if you want to be a millionaire, hang out with billionaires, right? So now, basically transferring that over, it doesn't mean always physically. We're in this age where everything's available online, right? So for me, when someone asks me that list, who are the 5 people you're around? I'm like, 2 of them live in different countries. One of them, I've never even had a conversation to. I just listened to his podcast. The other one is, you know, my significant other, And it's like, you add that together and you're like, wow, someone who's just, I listen to their podcast. I've never met the person, but we have that bond. That's a person. Another friend in another country, we will send WhatsApp notes to each other. So like finding these mentors, finding people to connect to, people that understand, going through similar ambitions or similar experiences, and it doesn't always have to be face to face.
Yeah, I think to also like to touch on that, like the whole like finding, surrounding yourself with people who are that will help you flourish. That doesn't necessarily mean comfortable. Because if you're trying to play a big game, this I was about to curse at you. this motherfucker. Because I wanted to play basketball. We played a real game. He was yelling at me the whole time at the game, but it was that push I needed to be aware of what was happening in the game. The same thing. If you're trying to play a big game, you want to be a millionaire, hanging out with millionaires, well, they'll call you out on your shit. Like you're spending money on dumb shit, or you're wasting time watching too much Netflix or whatever. You'll surround yourself with people who will help you flourish, but they're not always going to make you feel comfortable, because they'll make you stare real hard at yourself about the things you do every single day. And I think...
See this? See how there's this is a water bottle, folks. Surprise!
Oh, it's vodka.
So why am I saying this? This is a water bottle, right? I'm hanging out with Emeroy. I want to fill up my water bottle, right? If my water bottle's already full and I'm trying to put more water into it, it's not going to work out. So what he's basically saying is, if you want to grow, empty your water bottle. Go find people with that same type of water, or the water which you...
Water quality.
The waterfalls. Yeah. Go find the waterfalls. And fill up your bottle.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you have to do. If you go into a situation thinking you already know it all,
oh no,
you're not really going to get much out of it.
Or you'll get humbled real quick.
Exactly. Or, empty your palate, take it in, look for tools, tips, tricks that can help you evolve and move forward, and be thankful for the opportunity and keep going. Because one thing, successful people, regardless, if you're starting a business, whatever it is, if you're just being like, I think, you're a parent, dude. Like, I have the utmost respect for that. And that's something in my eyes that's not like glorified, right? Like, dude, you sacrifice day in, day. The first, before he even thinks about before he even thinks about sacrifice, he's already sacrificing. Like, that's literally like the grind you're on, right? And I think that's amazing. It's the whole mindset. Just have that mindset, go into things and want to learn better, because successful people, they don't make excuses, because the time it's going to take, and you can always find an excuse. The time that you're allocating, the energy you're allocating towards that excuse is energy that maybe somebody else is allocating towards moving forward.
Yeah.
So I know Kobe always talked about it. If we had 6 athletes, they're all the same athletic ability, how do we differentiate who moves forward? They all... very little things. That's the difference between great, good, 99% and 100%, right? How do you want to live your life? And it starts with you, the person in the mirror.
Mindset, I think, is a great thing to talk about, because it's one thing for us to, like, we can preach mindset all we want, but like, how... I have my answer already, like, but what would you say to someone like who's trying to develop that mindset? Because it's one thing, like, say, hey, get that mindset, but it's another thing to actually start developing it, especially if they have 20 years of habit, 30 years of habit of thinking of, having a kind of a victim mindset.
Yeah. Honestly, get yourself another accountability partner, somebody that you can maybe touch base with. It could even be once a month. You tell them, hey, I set these goals and I'm going to reach them. And then you meet up at the end of the month, talk, see if you reach those goals. That person could just keep you accountable for doing so. If you do, great. What's next? If you didn't, what held you back from doing so? And how can we propel you forward or make the adjustments for the future? So, yeah, man, I mean, we could talk about this stuff. It's great. And that's why, once again, circling back to Des 360, we really want to emphasize that. And I really think that it doesn't matter where you're from, what kind of background, money, not, where you're living. Like, there's always room for growth, and there's always an impact that could be made. We just gotta really like focus in on that and be like, wow, like that's just gonna make your story that much, that much greater. I always think about people I haven't met yet, and certain things that I do whenever you're grinding is for them. I haven't even met you, and like I feel like if I can inspire you, we're all grow up and we always think like, if I had this, well, guess what? Someone's out there who is gonna think that, but then they're gonna be like, oh wait, no, I have Emeroy, I have Des, and they're gonna boom help me out just to get me up, and then it's onwards from there, or they can refer to that. So mentorship is huge, accountability partners, and yeah, man.
I think my favorite thing when it comes to creating mindset, I think, is getting perspective. One of the things that helps me out, especially when I'm like those down days. It's like, man, like shit's not going my way today.
Those are the days that define you, by the way.
No, so
you're defined by those days. Like when you're having a down days, that's when the truth. It's always easy to like when everything's going well, it'd be like, hey, get up, man, and this and that. It's the days when you have a bad cough and you still show up to the interview. You know what I mean? With a smile on your face, ready to work. It's those days that truly define who you are. You know what I'm saying? And because once you elevate and get to that level and the financially you're feeling good and all of that, it's just going to be a byproduct. Yeah. You will learn that there isn't a huge difference because it all started with the mindset, the approach.
Yeah, like, definitely. For me, it's like an obsession to create content or to just do this stuff. It's like, that's why I say balance your shit. So, know your values.
Like Emeroy's creating content during this interview, like side content. Like I blinked my eye, he already contented. He contented.
I contented all over the place.
He contented. Emeroy just contented everywhere.
But that's gotta be a shirt. I contented. Going back into the mindset, what I do a lot, especially when I'm driving, I don't know if it's weird, but I always think about the death of family, like particularly my son, like especially when this is a touchy topic for a lot of people in regards to the whole immigration thing. I'm not going to push my political views on that, but it's like, but I have a soft spot for kids now that I'm a dad, because I see the things that happens. And then when I heard that story, I imagined my son going through that, or even, I imagine worst case scenarios happening to the people I love, like them getting cancer. What will life happen? And that shit like brings so much perspective of like, or even no, not even like not my own. It's like mainly like the people I love, because then I realize like, fuck, the shit I'm worrying about right now is like it dwarfs compared to that, because then at least. Now I bring myself to the reality of how things are. They're most like their health is good. That gives me the perspective like, okay, everything's good. Life is good. I'm alive right now. I have both my hands, and I woke up today. There's a lot people this morning. Today, people died in their sleep. That's some real shit. And then at the same time, kids are born. So it's like it's both the fact that there's life and death happening at the same time, the fact that I'm existing, able to talk here in this building, in this gym to do this is a blessing. It's counting the perspective that things could be worse, and then even though things aren't at the ideal situation that you want, and then counting your blessings even though you feel like you don't have any. Like it starts just by your breath, the fact that you can breathe, the fact that you can see, the fact that you can touch things. Because the minute I think you get that perspective, then you start getting some gratitude, grounded in gratitude for what you have, and then you'll start appreciating the journey a lot more. Because when in this journey and making shit happen, it's easy to get into the things like I don't have this result yet, I don't have this yet, and we're looking externally instead of looking within. And I think that's when we put our happiness, or if we put our happiness in a sense in things external, things come and go just as much as the breath. So like in meditation. Like that's one of the things I teach a lot. Like things come and go as much as the breath. Like my camera, as much as I love it, it might break one day. Or your job, you might love it, you might get fired. Or I don't know, like my vision, as much as I love it, I might be blind when I'm, I don't know, 80. It's that's a terrible thought to think about it, but if it does happen, you know, I'm grateful for what I have right now. At least I got to see the people who I got to love, and then it's getting really dark in terms of this topic. But
no, but what you're saying is you're being mindful. There's a level of mindfulness and practicing that on a daily. Like you got really deep with it, and just being able to practice mindfulness every day, gratitude, those things, and I mean that you're right. That is really a huge part of living in the essence of this.
Because like even though everyone's got their own journey. I don't know. Not everyone's trying to be an entrepreneur. Some people are just trying. Some people are. There's a Stoic saying, I think it's from Seneca. It's like just the act of living takes courage sometimes. So it's like for some of you guys, like getting out of bed is the tough part. Like so, I think I'm not saying like this is a prescribed medicine to fix yourself, but I think everyone is fully capable of starting with gratitude, because it's very easy. It's in our human nature to think negatively because it's how we survived. We look for things that are going to hurt us. Saber-toothed tiger, and or whatever, another tribe trying to kill us. It's within our makeup right now. We look for things that are potential threats to what's going to hurt us. So that's why, in essence of humanity, that's why we always are attracted to negative news. That's the thing that pops up. So, and then going back to the self, like a lot of us weren't exactly brought up with a proper mindset of self-care, of how to think positively. Most parents and teachers were always critical of us, of like, we need to do this better, do this better, do this better. Some of us who have Asian parents, say, have very high standards we grow up with this mindset of never being enough, and then that becomes the running script in a lot of our lives, which is why a lot of people feel unhappy, because they have this conversation with themselves where they never feel enough. So that's why, again, going back to gratitude, being thankful that you're here, thankful for yourself, being the one to take care of yourself, to fill your own cup first, I think can start shifting that mindset, because then you start the minute you can start appreciating yourself, you can start truly appreciating other things, because you can't give what you don't have. If my cup is empty, I can't give Des anything else. So
thanks, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's it right there. Love yourself. Find a way. Love yourself, and appreciate all these little moments. Every moment matters.
The tough times in whether with Festi or even in basketball, like what were some of the things you self-talk that you had?
So knowing that, remember that the pain is temporary, and what you want, or what you're striving for is beyond what's happening now. I kind of mentioned that, how in college my best friend was a star player. My girlfriend at the time was a star player. Yeah. And I was on the bench. So it's like countless nights when I was just telling my trainer, like, dude, like, I'm doing everything I can. I don't even play a couple minutes. After the game, no one says anything to me. And then I just knew, like, but he just kept saying, what you want is beyond this. What you want is beyond this. Wow. Understand that what you want is beyond this. And then looking forward, I was able to play professionally. Then the same people who were playing, in front of me and this and that, they're the ones hitting me up now, like, hey, can you get me to play here? Can you get me to play here? And it's like, as opposed to, instead of being like, well, you should have done this and you should have done this, and scorning and being like, scornful in that regard, no, you show love and be like, you know what? Yeah, let me see what I can do. Because there's a responsibility that once you get through that fire, that you do have to give back and hold yourself to another level. Hold yourself with dignity at that level. But self-doubt, it's going to happen. I mean, shoot. You got to find a way through it, though. Like I said, it's the wave, understanding the way that the universe works. Yeah. You get through it. And then the moments that are great, Because remember, without like these negative moments, we would not be able to distinguish like the positives. So appreciate all the positives, get through the negative, and that's it. I mean, resilience. So put it this way. If you don't go after or chase your dream, right, you might be upset at yourself and look yourself in the mirror and be like, or not be able to look yourself in the mirror, right? If you go after your dream, you will get criticized. That's part of it, right? Because you've already taken such a huge step just by having the initiative that some people are fearful of doing. So you will get some backlash. But remember, that's good, because then you're going to start realizing who really cares about you.
Yeah.
Who really supports what you're doing.
Yeah.
Who's willing to go through the fire with you, be there for you.
The real ones.
Right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, remember, it's not just about the external rewards. You know, there's intrinsic worth and intrinsic rewards here, right? So even with Festi, with all the companies we're starting, the ventures, this and that, of course we're going to do everything in our power to get them to the next level and succeed.
Yeah.
But regardless, we will learn at such a rapid rate for the next venture after that, for the next lesson after that. And have that mindset, find peace in that regard, but still bust your ass.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I think that's such a powerful thing to go for it. Because a lot of people, like I said, are afraid. Most people would live in, much rather live in the comfort of mediocrity, so to speak, where they know, where they know they can do better, but they don't. Whereas a lot of people would much rather avoid the pain of having to put in that work to potentially look like a fool, because that's almost the same thing as standing up and doing a public speech. That's actually one of the most feared, statistically. I don't know the numbers. I'll probably put it on the screen, but public speaking is one of the most feared things Americans are afraid to do, worse than death. So, and that's, public humiliation is a huge thing. And then and even worse, if you some people are hesitant because of that humiliation or that judgment from the people I don't know what success is defined for you, but the thing is, most people, it's already crowded down here. You can always go back to it. What's the worst that can happen is you could get some failures, but you also get some lessons. Whether it's 2, 3, 4 steps or even 1 step, you're 1 step closer to achieving that dream than sitting on your couch and not doing it. One out of 1,000 makes is 0.1% more than 0 out of 0. So it's statistically it's not sexy, but net it's much more progress than doing nothing. You just got to give yourself a shot.
There it is. I got one last thing to say
before
we move on to the next project, because we're always working and it's a blessing, and that's why we're always working, because we know that the opportunity in front of us is here, so we're going to take and make the most out of it. But what I just want to say is, be brave, be bold. When I was 14, I decided I wanted to play basketball. I decided at 14. I got cut as a freshman. Right? I did cry at first, and then within the same day, I also made the decision that that's not going to happen ever again. I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to make the team, and I'm going to do more. And I'm going to go further with this than a lot of people that they said would go further than me, right?
Shit.
I'm going to take this thing all the way. By age 21, I was playing overseas professionally, right? By age 24, I was starting my new venture with Festi, moving forward. They said, what are you doing? Putting money into this? You don't have any experience in this. So many humbling stories along the way. Still able to raise money, hit milestones. Now everyone's asking, when is it coming? They're excited about it. And you keep evolving. So keep evolving, be bold, be brave, roll with the punches. You'll be better off for it, ultimately. Because if everything else, all that goes away, meaning everything, let's say tomorrow I just have to start all over.
Oh, man.
If tomorrow I have to start all over, I'm good. because I know that the experiences in life I've appreciated, knowing what's at hand. You can create that. You can manifest that. The lessons learned along the way, they don't leave. And it's not just about yourself, it's about everyone. So let's all play our part. Let's do what we can. Look within, look around, and ultimately follow that right there. There's no difference between you and the celeb who you look at. And I know comparison is a thief of joy, but you know what? No one compares to you.
Yeah. Amen to that. So where can people stalk you online?
All right. Quite a few ways. No, so we got at Des360 coming out. Des_360 on the Instagram. We also have Train with Des at Train with Des on Instagram. Trainwithdes.com. We got a lot of things coming. So click the link below, or we'll have it all in the description.
You already said it before
there
me.
It
yes.
Is. Boom! I see. I beat him to the chase.
Someone who knows the YouTube.
The whole list. YouTube. Click the link below. I watch enough. I study the videos. So, man, thank you, man. Appreciate it, dude. I mean, always love, always positivity.
So we're about to go actually film some stuff. We're not going to leave going anywhere. We're going to start filming some stuff. So keep an eye on that. Or you might, it might be some micro content you guys enjoy on the IG. So, catch you guys later. Peace.